your time, and we will be putting the questions in the chat box so that you can attend the queries over there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Erwan. Our next is a panel discussion, and if Professor Ghazi is here.
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Yes, sir. If you please kindly invite the panel experts and start this panel discussion about this very informative, very interesting topic.
All right, thank you. Now, may I take a privilege to invite the panel, and the panel discussion is all about, will Asia fully respond to a global transitions to open access? And our discussion today is Professor Zabta Dr. Shamti Mathew, and also Dr. Haseeb M. Irfanullah. May I cordially invite all these esteemed panel colleagues to be online and start panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Ghazi. You know what, we had a meeting a couple of days back to organize ourselves for this panel discussion. So do we have Sam and Haseeb? Is that one, or was this a different?
You see Mr.
Yes.
Dr. Sam around.
Yes, I'm here, Dr. Zabta.
And Haseeb?
Haseeb was supposed to join. I don't see him online, but
anyway, Sam, let's start very quickly because the time is an issue with us. What we had decided was, just very quickly in maybe less than 5 minutes, I will raise certain issues regarding, can you see my screen, all of you?
Yes, sir.
Good. So what we decided was that we have 4 or 5 minutes, just quickly, the issues that are related to open science. We work with Inter-Academy Partnership with UNESCO and other organizations for this open science. And what we were able to recognize were, first, the open science taxonomy, like from open access, open data, open science evaluation, etc. I'm not going into detail, just to give you a brief, and then that will help the the panelists to address few questions that we have to all this. And then we should understand, Sam has an excellent presentation today. There he identified certain issues on impact, H index, height and index, etc. But when we talk about open science, who are the key players? Who are responsible? Government? Is it the publishers? Is it the researchers? The society? Ultimately, who are the key players that are, will be somehow impacted through open science? And then we will be also discussing the key barriers. What stops us from opening the data, opening the publication and everything? Is it finances? It is greed? Is it what? So that are the barriers that we should be trying to address it. Give you one example of the COVID vaccine. The whole African continent doesn't produce a single, drop of vaccine for the consumption of their own continent. And why was it? When this COVID came in, we tried to open at least for this vaccine. And there was a regime called WTO, World Trade Organization, that prohibits, having licensing to the other countries other than those who already have it. So those are the issues that we should be trying to discuss it. Now, what does open science claims? What will help? Like science-related arguments, financial, social, democracy, socio-political. These issues are related to all this, and we are trying to address the issues of inclusiveness of the society and sustainable development through science. We already had heard a lot of good things about impact of science rather than impact factor. And we agreed almost all of us that 20 years back, science had more impact than today, though we have more publication than we were having 10 years back. So those are the issues that we try to address those questions. Now to start with, I will ask Sam and then others. That's it, what was having for you as a background. We already received one question from the audience through emails. Already Mariam has shared this with the panelists. Sam, if you could go through it, and meanwhile, Haseeb has joined us. We go to the discussion for the question that I have in my mind to address to both of you. First of all is this is impact then impact factor. So just very simply briefing in 2 words. So Sam, you had already very good discussion today. If you could expand those discussion with that, and I stop sharing screen now because this was it. And over to Sam, please.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Zabta. So probably before we go into the questions of the panelists, probably we can take it a little later. So I think the interest of the audience, a little bit about the open access and a little bit about the history of it and how that is been evolving now, that I think would be beneficial. So in my opinion, open access is something which is one of the very significant movement of the development in the last 2 decades for the scholarly publishing. So, and the main objective of this open access is to, in simple words, to provide free, unrestricted access to the research outputs, such as journal articles and books. So there are multiple models like golden, green, brown, etc. So but let's don't consider that. Basically, the objective is to provide free and unrestricted access to the research information. When we talk about the open access and its impact, we should not forget the history of open access. It was something started somewhere in 1971 with the project Gutenberg, but 3 important initiatives which happened in 2002 and 2003, that is the Budapest Open Initiatives, the Bethesda Statement, and the Berlin Declaration, have in fact laid the principles and guidelines for the open access. And we all are aware of this DOAJ, Directory of Open Access Journals, which was formed in 2003 to support this movement. Actually had around 300 open access journal at the beginning, but now if you look at it, this has close to around 18,000 journals from around 130 countries and 80 languages. And what is interesting is more than 12,000 journals in this Directory of Open Access do not charge any article processing charges. But it's also important to understand that what are the quality of those journals, etc. That's a debate of another discussion. But at the same time, we need to really understand that this actually shows the I'm sorry. I hear lots of background noise. Those who are not speaking,
please,
if they can, please mute.
The audience, please mute yourself so that you could hear what we are saying and others are not disturbed. Please mute yourself, all the audiences, please.
Yeah, so this huge acceptance of this open access, actually a clear indication of how the research fraternity and the scholarly publishing fraternity has embraced open access in their research initiatives. So the question is, will Asia respond to it? How quickly? We need to see that from the further discussions from Dr. Haseeb and Dr. Zabta. So Dr. Zabta, I just set the context and I just said the little bit basic understanding or basic history about the open access, and over to you.
Thank you, Sam. And we are happy Haseeb has joined us. Hope to, Haseeb, you are with us. How are you?
Yeah, quite. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Great to have you as fresh as ever. So today, now next is to you as you joined. So I don't know how many of you understand Hindi, but it says "Sar mundate hi ole pad gaye." So that you have to think about it. And Haseeb, question for you. You already heard very nice background from Sam. about open access. When was it? How was it? And where are we going to? So this is what we all have to think about. And in Asia, we appreciate ACSE doing a lot of good job. And this may be the platform that can be the champion in open access. So Haseeb, if you could kindly share the Sam's point that he had already explained, and what's your response to all those data that he shared and the impression that he has for open science? Haseeb, please.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Sorry, because of some technical difficulties, I had to join a bit late. Yeah, it's a great honor and privilege to be part of this session. I hope you can hear me clearly. I often, when I hear discussion on open science or open access, I often wonder that what made it close in the first place? Why we're talking about opening it? If we look into the publishing industry in this region, we often see that traditionally it has been open, always open. So the new phenomena, the new discussion, the new concept that we have been discussing, sometimes we wonder whether it has been kind of a, what do you call it, a modern formalization that has been imposed upon us, or it is something we need to reinvent ourselves. Joke apart, definitely if we look into India or Bangladesh, Nepal and other countries in this region, we see that open access journals, or especially if we say that diamond open access, which is free for everybody, you don't need to pay even APCs. It has always been like that, because traditionally in this region, different institutions, different societies, learner societies, we publish journals. Our editors, our editorial board members, our peer reviewers, we are just doing it out of the responsibility of our academic responsibility. So that momentum, that aspiration, that motivation actually made our Asian journals, our scholarly communication, a fantastic venture, no doubt about it. If we look into India, if we look into the directory of open access journal, we see hundreds and thousands of journals from Indonesia, Iran, China, India, you just name it. There are so many open access journals out there, and it has been a fantastic just to see. Moving forward, if we look into the repository, even there, more than 100 Indian repositories are listed in DOAR, directory of open access repositories. So a few from Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Pakistan as well. But I have one kind of concern that whether our policymakers, our scholarly leaders have been doing enough to kind of streamline it. For example, I'm from Bangladesh. We don't talk about open access the way we hear elsewhere. We don't talk about it. So even in India, definitely there's an open access policy since 2014, but there was a study recently done by two fantastic workers, and they showed that the top journals, isn't it? The top journals, 50 journals, they actually impose embargo for 1 year to 2 years. So it is a kind of contradicts the open access policy that India has. And but despite the fact the growth of open access is fantastic in India, 18%, isn't it? Which is fantastic. To me, I should stop now that we can show leadership, because traditionally we are pro open access, although now using capital O and capital A, we thought open access something a kind of a new animal, but I believe our traditional, our cultural practice that we have can help us to face the new challenges that we have been discussing today. I should stop now. Thank you, Professor Zabta.
Thank you, Haseeb, Irfanullah. Excellent. And just announcement for all the participants that your questions are kept in mind, and I will be requesting the speakers before this panel discussion that we will be involving them also by the end of this panel discussion. And we have a general kind of overview because the morning session was somehow related to open science too. So we will be addressing those questions by the speakers, and already I can see now server is vigilant and so is Mariam. So we all have that in mind, please. We want to keep you there online so that your questions is answered as soon as this panel discussion overs. And now back to Sam. Haseeb had an excellent, overview. And I will also be requesting Haseeb and Sam to read the chat box. People are appreciating their countries like India, Pakistanis, Nepalis. They are saying about the journals, how they charge, the societies and the institution that sponsors all this. So Sam, over to you. You already heard Haseeb, a very good background. And now, if you would like to add what has been already said since morning, what do you think? What did we miss? And what would you add to all this? Do you agree to whatever has been said, or you want to wish to delete some words that we were discussing it on open science? Over to Sam.
Okay, thanks, Haseeb. So I would like to partly agree with Dr. Haseeb. But I will definitely agree that open access is something which we need to really pursue, and that should be always be the prime objective for us. But certain concerns, especially that's a global concern for our open access, but at the same time, that's more pertaining to or more focused for Asian countries. We all must have experienced the emergence of predatory publishers and predatory journals who just wanted to make money without ensuring the academic quality. And majority of these predatory publishers are seen being published from Asia, and 90% of them are open access. And the open access is being misused by certain, the people with only business in mind, not the science, have been misusing it, and Asia should definitely respond to it. There was an article from Nature published around 4 years back, which actually said around there is a mushrooming of journals and predatory journals from Asia, especially if you look at certain subcontinent, even from India, there are lots of predatory journals which are coming with the tagline of International Journal of. So their international is just only in the name. They are very, very local, but at the same time, they are two substandard journals. And this is one of the disadvantage. I wouldn't say it's a disadvantage, it's a misuse of open access by certain people, which needs to be curtailed. And the cost of open access publishing, which is very, very expensive for most of the the researchers from Asian subcontinent. It starts from around 400 to it goes up to around $3,500. And recently I have seen that Nature started to charge around $11,000 as an APC for a couple of papers. And this is really alarming. If you really want to make it open with this APC, you're making it closed. You're not opening it up. So we need to really look at it, who should fund them, and how should the researchers from the Asian subcontinent get this funding to ensure that their research is visible to the global community. One last point. Now you must see that open journal, or the term open is associated with many global publishers. BMJ has their own BMJ and open BMJ. AppSciTech, open AppSciTech, even Nature, Springer, everybody has their own primary journal along with an open access journal. But if you look at the quality of those journals, if you're able to compare them, definitely these open access journals impact factor, maybe again it's a matter of debate, or the quality, the way how we assess is much lower than their primary journals or the first tier journals. And these three concerns of open access should be addressed. Basically, these are very pertaining to the Asian subcontinent. Then definitely, I think we are good to go with more of engagement from the researchers and the publishing houses to have open access publications, so not just journals, open access articles even in the future.
Thank you, Sam. And you raised very pertinent questions now: predatory journals, integrity, ethics. And I will go a little beyond it. Zabta has an excellent overview on integrity, and we heard from Indonesia a lot of good points by the Zabta. And then now to Haseeb, we are focusing too much on one side. Maybe our talk was so far almost 100% on publication. But there is another area. Open access means open science. When we say open science also includes data sharing, methodologies and other aspects. Like I said about vaccine, it's not a publication, but it's the way of helping humanity, specifically least developing countries, to save themselves. Otherwise, I will quote a sentence, no one is safe until everybody is safe. So that, if that is the situation of the world, so the developed world also needs the developing countries to come forward to help themselves, to stand on their feet. So over to Haseeb, if you could kindly elaborate a little more your message, your plan, Bangladeshi point of view, what would you suggest, whatever has been said, what you want to add to all that?
Thank you very much. You raised a very important point. Sometimes we think ourselves, of course, we need to think ourselves as a country, as a region. We are part of different forums. But often I know many of our colleagues present here might not be supporting the terms I'm going to use now. The North and the South divide, the developing country or least developed country and the developed country division. But that is the reality. We need to appreciate that, whether you call it global North and the global South in terms of their economy, we need to appreciate. And we also need to appreciate, given the research, given the publication industry, the way it evolved over the last 350 years, if I'm talking about the publishing system, not led, there's no doubt about it. Europe led, the USA led, and all the big commercial publishers and the society journals, reputed society journals, they are leading the way. But we can't, it is not possible for us just to replicate that and just to adopt that. So my first point would be, we need to contextualize. There are so many challenges when we just talk about how to have sufficient infrastructure to how to access certain information. We can't just take and implement and be rigid to maintain the certain standards. Saying that, there are some, I would like to give very quick 2 examples. There are certain initiatives, global initiatives that can help us. We all are aware of Research for Life, which is celebrating its 20 years this year, and how it has revolutionized thousands of institutions from 120 countries. They are actually accessing big, good journals, which were not possible by any other means. And a recent study actually showed Research for Life, the project, every year, the access it gives to literally hundreds and thousands of researchers from 125 countries. It can be, the worth can be calculated $48 million per year. So you can understand how global initiatives are actually trying to minimize the North-South divide. I'm associated with, I'm giving a quick another example. I'm associated with INASP, which is an Oxford-based charity. And since 1998, it actually established journal online, and all the journals, hundreds of journals from Bangladesh, Nepal, Mongolia, Latin America, Central America, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, all are open access. Thousands of articles, if not hundreds and thousands of articles are available there. So we need to harness these global initiatives. We need to appreciate that. And just the last point, as Sam was mentioning, my God, how exorbitant the APCs, article processing charges. But I'm sure many of our colleagues are aware of it, but I'm re-emphasizing that sometimes because of high APCs, we don't actually approach those. But do we all know that there are certain journals, big names, including Cell, they actually follow certain rules to give waivers and discounts to countries which are categorized as Group A and Group B countries, according to the Research for Life. It means to publish an article in Cell, it may cost you almost $10,000, one article. But if all the authors, typically all the authors are from the Global South, from Bangladesh, for example, it can get 100% waiver. So we need to explore those opportunities and save ourselves from predatory journals, as Sam rightly mentioned, which is a great concern, no doubt about it. Back to you, Dr.
Thank you, Haseeb. The discussion is really going on very nicely, and this was the day, thanks to ACSE for having this platform for the younger lot to understand all this issue that we are confronted with. And now, because we are running out of time and we want to give time to the audiences to ask questions, the last maybe round for Haseeb and both for Sam. Sam, what I would, have in mind is equality, equity. When we talk about global North and global South, when we talk about developed, least developed, middle income countries, etc., all these words. And then there are a lot of good questions by Zabta and Patial. They are discussing these issues. This is not only for open science and open access. If you talk about higher education, this was once considered as a public good. Like the state was responsible to, produce some good human being through higher education. And now it has gone into professionally, you pay the money, you become an engineer, whatnot, AI specialist, etc., etc. But who will produce good human beings? And there are questions in the chat box, specifically by Dasapta, very nice, that we as a academician, as a teacher, as a professors, are also after money, briefcase professors and all this. And I will add to all this, I recently had gone through an open invitation by someone saying to the younger lot, pay this much money, you can be first author, second author, third, fourth. We have ready publication, accepted publication, and we had your name. You give this much money and that much money. And so this world, where are we going to? What's our destination? We forgot that we are dying and we will be going from this world, what we are leaving behind. So Sam, if you could be some more philosophical as a good human being, can you conclude with your thoughts the way forward? What this gathering of ACSE, a lot of good brain is there watching us, hearing us. Any last word from you? Whatever I have said, I'm sorry, I went too long, but I'm a bit emotional when I think about the younger lot that I'm producing good. I'm a biotechnologist, you are a pharmaceutical scientist, so is Haseeb. So what we are producing, are we producing good human being to the society? Are you satisfied? Please go ahead, Sam.
Thank you, Dr. Zabta. Very, a great question. So this is the question even lingering me also when we look at what's happening over the world. So only we can change it. We don't have to wait for anybody else to make the change. We as academicians or wherever we work, let's start practicing the real science. So then things will definitely fall in place. When we are talking about these issues across in Asia, so I don't think open access is too bad in Asia, because if you look at Indonesia, it's a statistics from 2018 actually says of around 1,500 journals indexed in DOAJ from Asia, 1,100 of them are from Indonesia. So Indonesia is definitely leading that. So and this is followed by India and China. So majority of around 80% of the journals published in Directory of Open Access is from these three countries. So why don't the countries who have not built the the open access infrastructure, collaborate with these countries to ensure that open access is being utilized across Asia. And as we said, we should not discriminate the science or the all this with us middle income countries, lower income countries, and all that. So we are doing science. There is nothing, money doesn't matter when the science comes in or the integrity of science comes in. So we are doing research, even the Asia is doing research, Europe is doing research, US is doing research. So and we should always look at those opportunities to collaborate with different countries, those who have already built the infrastructure, and leverage those knowledge from them. Of course, India has an open access policy, and I don't know to what extent that is being practiced. So the government should facilitate the fund for open access publishing. This is also one major thing which the Asian countries should look at it. And above all this, I still think that there is a lack of awareness on what is actually open access. Whomever I have come across in the one of the university meeting when I was talking about how to write good publications, I just gave a small survey among the participants and asked them, will you publish in open access? Majority of them said no. The reason when they asked, they said all open access journals are of low quality. But that is not right always. There are many good journals with which publishers which goes with the open access publishing, which has a high impact factor or good quality papers. So the awareness of open access, what does it mean, and different types of open access, as Dr. Haseeb said now. So there are many journals which will actually forgo your or waive off your open access fees. So there are many opportunities which we need to explore, and there is no point in we blame ourselves or seeing the society that what's going on. Let's start our change. Let's spread the awareness of open access and ethical science and ethical publications, and definitely I think the things will fall in place.
Thank you, Massam. And we are really in a very good discussion. I wish I could invite each one of the participants to come live and share their feelings, because we all are really facing. We are concerned. We are concerned citizens, as a scientist, as a professional, and as specifically as a teacher. So Haseeb, coming to you, since morning it's a really very interesting debate. And this panel discussion, I'm really grateful to ACSE for giving me two angels on my right and left. Sam and Haseeb are more professional than me. So Haseeb, coming to you, can you kindly say whatever we couldn't say since morning? Please, Haseeb.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I would like to, since we are concluding the session, I would like to make two quick comments. One is looking inside ourselves. We are talking about open access, open science, which is essential for our future, but many of our institutions, many of our countries in Asia, we often struggle because the way our recruitment, because we are researchers, we have to survive. As Professor Zabta rightly mentioned, sometimes we overlook certain ethical issues. So the first thing is we need to talk about these issues a lot, because sometimes we struggle the recruitment system, the number counts rather than the quality. The second point is many of the Asian countries, we are now struggling to get our ranking into as a part of the global ranking. And very recently, over the last 3 years, THE times higher education impact ranking is there. It doesn't talk about research much, maybe 25%, but still you have to publish in a Scopus index journal. If it is not Scopus index, your paper will not be counted by that indexing, that ranking system. And I personally faced the same problem. I was searching for a big commercial publisher to publish my journal, to publish my paper. And there was a new journal, open access journal, as Sam mentioned, and they were waiving all my fees. Since it is not indexed in the Scopus, I can't publish it. So you see, making it open access didn't drive me, What drove me is my organization's rules and regulations. So there are so many smaller things we need to think while looking inside, in ourselves, towards ourselves. But looking outside, I'm part of a association, the Society for Scholarly Publishing, where I write as a chef. We call it chef because we cook different issues, which is called the Scholarly Kitchen. And one point I have been repeatedly saying, that would be my concluding point. It is not only the global north, they will be talking about, oh, we need to reduce the inequality, we need to enhance the diversity, the inclusion. We have to meet in the middle. That's the important point. We need to understand, we need to realize we have to be part of the big one, despite our economical and social and cultural challenges. And they can't, the global north, they can't just stand there in the north. We have to come in the middle and do our best so that we can meet in the middle. So that kind of collaborative approach is so important. How can you translate it? If I am a member or editor of a, say, medicine journal from the global south, I can collaborate with my counterpart in the south so that we can translate and transfer the technologies, the challenges, the opportunities, the infrastructural support. So that kind of collaboration is so much needed. I should stop now. Thank you.
Thank you, Haseeb. And we are really having interesting debate on the other side too in the chat box. I'm going to invite the morning speakers also to sort of interact with us and add what we missed with three of us. But very importantly, the Zabta is saying something about ego, about humanism, and I would add to it. You know, this evolution of open science, and secondly, impact factor, H index, I index, Sam has explained very nicely. What would happen, like if you publish something internationally in a very good impact Q1, Q2, and all this, that names that we have, they will focus on the articles that are relevant to the wider world. And then with the local journals, with the local issues, with the local problems, isn't it our responsibility to address the questions of our own citizens, of our own countries? Who will address those questions if our journals cannot evolve, if they cannot get to that level because of obvious reason? They can't compete with the, you know, nature, science, all this. Everything they have some connection with in India and in China, maybe in Pakistan. But overall, we should agree that, I don't know the percentage, but majority are from that developed world, and they focus on something which is really needed by them, or they do science, they have asked you to hire you as unpaid labor to do science for them. Sam, over to you. This is the last round, and then I go to the speakers of the morning session so that they could add something to the discussion that we had. Sam, these are your last words. Whatever I have said and whatever is in chat box. If you could address, Haseeb will address the remaining, and that's it. Please go over to Sam.
So I see one question here. I think that's quite in many open access journals are not indexed in SciMago or Scopus. Do publishing in these journals dilute our profile as a researcher of an early stage? And I think this is something, no, so we need to really address. This is what I said in my last session about we need to really spread the awareness. So open access publishing a journal, I mean, has lots of people have lots of apprehensions in publishing open access journals, which I have seen. More than 70% of the people who attended one conference said they will not publish because they said there are a lot of low quality journals. But now, doesn't mean that if your paper is not, I mean, your open access journal is not indexed in SciMago or Web of Science, doesn't mean that your paper, I mean, that journal is of low quality. We need to have different ways of looking at the quality of journals. So in my opinion is go ahead, do a good research and get that published. Definitely every good research, when you say good research, it's not the positive results. Good research, any results is, I mean, comes out of your research is a research, but good research in the sense, if you conduct the research the way it is needed and ethically, that's definitely publishable, and you can get published in open access journals, or I mean, or journals that have different impact factor or anything. So just don't worry about the different quality of the journals. Go ahead, and if you find an open access journal which actually have a good editorial board, which has a good process of peer review, go ahead and publish them, and embrace this open access. So start using the open access. In other ways, we will not reach anywhere.
Thank you, Sam. And, interesting debate. If I agree to disagree, what people say, it's easy to say than to believe. The reason is that those younger lot comes to the selection boards, to the promotion boards, where we are sitting, and we usually, count them one way. I say I represent the whole community of senior people who says that much impact. Here we contradict, but when the general platform, everybody would count, impact factor, H index, whatever you said, Sam, in the morning. So Haseeb, what is the way out? What do you think? Like, there is a very good question or suggestion by Ravi Shankar again, that this indexing, we are somehow in this globalization process, we are lost somewhere, because this is a money issue now. And, the developed world has conquered us. So this is a word of being a slave, but not feeling like a slave or something. I don't know how to have a diplomatic or good language. But Haseeb, over to you. You are a much, better brain than I am. So over to you to conclude all this.
I just have read what Ravi Shankar has mentioned. It is a kind of declaring a war, isn't it? Why don't we have a separate indexing system? Because, they are not appreciating ours. Actually, that is not the solution. Just look into the ranking system. Since we can't be part of 2000 in the global ranking system of the big one, THE, now they have created so many. Sorry if any representative is present here. There are so many different regional ranking is there to embrace us. So you see, you have rightly said, Professor Zabta, that, is all about resources or money or, business. But I think fight or going against the flow is not the right thing, because that is happening in silence. As I have mentioned, Research for Life, 10,000 institutions, actually 11,000 institutions from all over the world. Interestingly, in my country is the third highest, which actually get benefit out of Research for Life. But interestingly, we are reading global paper, but we are publishing locally. It means we are creating silos. That is bad. Fight, you can fight, or you can isolate yourself in the silo, but we can't do both. We need to, I think the main challenge is we need to talk about it, but talk not among ourselves, but with those stakeholders, those entities, those agencies where matters. Because there are so many different initiatives are there which are supported by big companies, big publishers. But we have to have discussions, not among ourselves, but with them. That might help to realize what are the changes needed on the ground, what are the challenges we are facing, why there is a value of publishing a regional journal talking about regional issue. For example, climate change. If I can't gather evidence from my own country, Bangladesh, how can it benefit the globe? Because we are a country which never left the top 10 climate vulnerable country over the last 15 years or so. So the value of national institutions, the researchers based in the countries, at local institutions, that kind of pro-collaborative, not going against they, us, but we need to change the vocabulary. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Haseeb. I think there are many issues we are raising now. The last 10, 15 minutes, what I'm thinking, I propose, there are a couple of hands also raised, but I would like to ask the host, like Mariam and Server, to say a minute each, how to ask them to present themselves. But the question would be how brief could they themselves, either they should write or they should not take more than a minute, because we have only 10, 15 minutes left, and we have 5, 6 people on the road to speak, like the speakers in the morning. If they had read all the chat boxes and they want to add something, they want to correct something, and maybe we have said something which they feel that maybe there was something not enough elaboration by 3 of us. So over to Mariam, Saftar for a minute each. Tell us what to do with the raise hands and what are your views, because Server was a co-moderator with me in the morning, his views, and then we will be inviting the speakers for a couple of minutes.
Dr. Shinwari, for the questions that we have for the raise hands, I think we can give them a minute or so to raise the question, and accordingly the panel experts can on air answer the questions.
Thank you, Mariam. And Server, you want to add something?
He is writing the brief conclusion at the end of the whole session.
Wow.
So we have two raised hands. The first one is Dr. Muhammad Rais. What's your question, sir?
Rais, don't take more than a minute, please. Go ahead, Muhammad Rais.
I think you're on mute.
Yeah, hello?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, Dr. Rai is here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Actually, sir, I am driving the car. Give me a second. Sir, one of my questions
to
is,
speak while driving.
First of all, the presentations were very good and it was the second thing, my question is about this NAS rating. We have most of the journals which don't have these NAS publication rating. As we have here in India, that NAS is more acceptable than impact and all other things.
Thank you, Rais.
Hello?
Thank you, Rais. We got it.
I think you got my,
Sam,
I think you got my question.
Yes, Rais. Okay. Sam has noted it down. He would address your question, and I would ask.
And second question is that APC charges about the publication. There are a lot of journals which are asking for more money and all that for the publication.
Okay. So we were responding to you. There was another.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. You are welcome. And please drive safe. Don't talk when you are driving. It's illegal. Again, we are talking about integrity and
that is why I just stopped the car side by. That is why I.
Good. Very good, Rais. Have a safe journey back home. The next.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Welcome. The next raised hand was somebody with yahoo.com, Sahara something, many digits. Is she around or he? I don't know. If not, Sam, can you briefly respond to Rais' observations?
I'm not sure if I understood his question correctly, but I think he's saying that, I mean, when we have to get published, we need to go for certain journals which actually charge a high APC charges within India. So now I think the UGC of India has have a list of journals which they prefer to get published, because this is actually to help the researchers to not get into the trap of these predatory journals. So we get at least, I usually get at least 3 or 4 invitations from, I know that all of you get much more than that from different journals, being in the editorial board or published papers with them. So don't fall into that trap. So if you really want to publish, there are many in that list of journals published by UGC. There are many journals which even they don't charge APC charges, or they are charged very minimal. So go with that list. Then you can, most of the time you will be successful in publishing in those journals.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam.
Yeah.
You want to add? Please, I'm sorry.
No. That's it. Thanks.
Okay. Let's go to the, we have only 10 minutes left. The morning speakers, who would like to add anything, whatever has been said till now? Shall I ask, start from Charlie, the first speaker of the morning session? Do you want to say something, Charlie Meow?